It's okay. We're here. Everything's okay. I made it. I made it. Don't you worry. Does that look okay? Do I look all right? Okay. The important thing is that I look all right. Could also lower the music a little bit. There we go. That's good. That's good. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another Thursday night stream here on ye old YouTube. Sorry for the little late, the little 5 or whatever 6 second, 10 maybe delay, 10-second delay. Getting my stuff together. Got into the whole 9 yards a little too last minute tonight, but that's okay. That's okay. We will survive, as we always do. I feel like my hat's crooked. Does my hat look crooked? There's something wrong with my hat. What's wrong with my hat? Is my hair the issue? Is it too thick and voluptuous? I mean, my hair is very thick and voluptuous. In all earnestness. That okay? Is this good? Does this roll? Does this compute? I'm Warren, in case it's the first time you're here. And this is my stream that I do on Thursday evenings here on the YouTube channel. Hope you're having a lovely week. It's almost done. The week is almost already completed. If you were returning to work this week, I hope it went well. My first week of work post-holiday season will be on Monday. That's when I get back into the grind. As it stands right now, all I'm doing is taking some nice time off and enjoying myself. And why wouldn't I? And why wouldn't you? What's been going on? Is there anything like I feel like the last couple of days have been relatively boring. Like I don't think like there hasn't been like anything like myself with the with my own earthly existence, but also with pro wrestling. Like I think everything has been pretty like as far as news goes, like things coming out of the woodwork and talking points and big things going on. I think everything has been pretty. I mean, unless you're into NXT call-ups, everything's been it's been pretty boring. Or is it just me? Like I was getting ready for the stream and I was like, man, there's really like, there's nothing I feel like I have to, there's nothing I can sink my teeth into. If that makes sense. There's nothing, like there's nothing that I can really like chew on. New Japan free agents, has anyone been announced? Like that's just look, it's a load of speculation. And it's always the gaijin year after year, who reach out. It's always the same thing year after year, where it's like you'll have you'll have the gaijin wrestlers who are going to reach out to particularly Sean Ross Sapp, and it's going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to check for other options, and you're like, okay, this happens every fucking year. No biggie, and then they end up sticking around. Right. And I think we talked about, I think we talked a little bit last stream on, we talked a little bit on stream about about the war dogs, you know, perhaps looking even to get like dual contracts so that they can come work on in North America, in the United States, you know. I don't know, it's pretty barren. I'm not gonna lie. Like, we have some things to talk about, but like there's nothing really juicy to sink my teeth into. There's nothing that has the substance where I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know, this is going. Nothing that I can sit down and say, all right, we've got ourselves a half hour easy on this topic here. It's the start of the new year. Things are gonna get antsy. Things are gonna get very pro wrestling ish, you know. We like, you know, Jake something showing up on Impact look at me, in AEW on Dynamite last night, right? I mean, I've talked about it on the Dynamite review, which is out right now. But I talked about it on the Dynamite review earlier today, and you know, it's like, you know, I feel like everything has already been skimmed over. You know. But look, you know, we've got some things. It's just like, you know, usually I like to open up and talk about, oh, you know, over the past couple of days, I've done this or this and that and whatnot. And it's like, no, it's been pretty average. It's been pretty boring. Really. I've been playing some Cyberpunk. And I like it. But I'm not losing my mind over it. I think like these types of open world games now, for me, you know, they really have to have something special, because I feel like I can feel the formula as I'm playing, if that makes sense. And so I'm like, oh, well, this, oh, well, that. I don't know. It just I'm playing it. I'm enjoying it. I think the acting is incredible. And I really think the acting is the hook. I really do think that the characterizations and the acting from everyone they've had in there to do mocap and voice is just phenomenal stuff, you know? But as far as the gameplay goes, like I've played Grand Theft Auto, you know, I've played and mechanically it feels like an older GTA as opposed to something that's really modern. I don't know. I don't want to knock it too much, because I know it gets a really bad rep. But you know, it's interesting because the setting is beautiful, and the acting is really good, but I can't help but feel like there's still a hollowness to it. If you know, like they're trying real hard to do some world building, you know. And I think, like, I don't know. I think there's still a hollowness to it, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But I'm enjoying it. But if anything, this is confirming to me why I love indie games so much, because, you know, all of the tech and the hard, you know, the tech, the mechanics that are put front and center in these types of games aren't available to indie developers. So all they have to really fall back onto is the gameplay. Is the game fun to play? And most of the time when I play these indie games, I'm like, yes, these are very fun games. So, you know, it just continues to cement my love for indie games, which, you know, when you fall on the good ones, right? Of course, because there's always shit, right? There's always bad ones, but you fall on the good ones, You follow in some really good mechanics, some really fun gameplay, and then you're like, this cost me, $15 instead of 80, and I'm having so much fun, right? That's just me. That's just me. I don't hate it. Like I don't want to give the impression that I think it sucks, because it doesn't. I actually like it. I actually like it. There you go. That's what I've been doing over the past couple of days. So there you go. And I think I'm all caught up on the pro wrestling I needed to watch since the start of the new year, particularly from Japan. So I think I'm good. Like, I think that's it. What's next? I got to finish off Stranger Things, and I'm not particularly excited, but we'll get around to that. It's like, I'll get around to it. Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you. He's also a member of the channel. It's very nice to see you, and welcome. Zach McGibbon, nice to see you too, brother. Welcome to the chat. As is Carlos. Nice to see you, Sports and Things shows. How can you not get fired up about Perez Hilton being on TNA's debut on American Movie Classics? It just gritted my teeth so hard when I saw that. I was like, oh my God. If all I'm saying, if TNA plays their cards right, and they want to get, they want to get into the influencer. If they play their cards right, they just might be able to get the Chocolate Rain guy to come on and do some spots, right? Or maybe hire the Leave Britney Alone guy to jump in and interview some people. Can you imagine deciding to hop into fucking 2026, and you're going to watch something and you're going to have Perez Hilton being shoved down your throat? And I know, like, this is the kind of phrasing that would make Perez Hilton really, really laugh, But man, you want to talk about someone whose relevance is lost. I remember when Perez Hilton was the lord of tabloid gossip. I remember very, very distinctly. Now I hear he does like TikToks. That's what he does now. He's just on TikTok all the time. What a fucking fall. That's more than a tumble. That's a complete crash. Anyway. LOL TNA. It never fails. Just like putting out the graphics. Just like putting out, graphics for just like putting out graphics to announce the show next week, and featuring one of their stars, right? And doing one and releasing one for Jake something. Like, why would you do that? If if the guy's on his way out, and you should know that the guy's on his way out, why would you make and release one of these graphics? It's embarrassing. TNA will never change. I think we'll always have like that assurance. Like, even though they are entering the biggest media deal they've ever had, even though we don't know what it is unquestionably a better media deal than they had with Access, which was zero. Even with that, don't you, by the way, don't you all think it's strange that even at this stage right now, like weeks and weeks after the announcement, we still have not heard a single detail as to what the media deal is, which leads me to believe that it's not all that advantageous or great. I even think it might even be an ad split with AMC. I think that might be it. Fuck your mama. Nice to see you and welcome. Debut was tonight. No, the debut's next week. They said we still have a full week anticipation. Who knows whatever other irrelevant social media stars they'll be able to pull out for this. They'll do little animated bits with Homestar Runner. No, that's not fair. Homestar's still cool. Mr. Antox, nice to see you and welcome to the chat as well. I can't wait for a game coming out likely next year called Exodus from the OG team that did Mass Effect. And yes, it's this. Yeah, I've heard about that. I always hold these things at at arm's length. You remember when the original team for Left 4 Dead made, what was it, Back 4 Blood, right? That wasn't great. I'm old enough to not get excited for this kind of stuff anymore and just like play the wait and see. Boris, nice to see you and welcome. Without getting too much in the weeds, are you concerned about what Agent Orange is saying about Greenland and the implications it could have for Canada? Look, I don't want to get too much in the weeds either. I think whatever this man says is very concerning, and I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's funny anymore. I don't think I don't think these things are hilarious anymore. But even before implications for Canada, if he goes after Greenland, if he legitimately like brings in boats and whatnot for Greenland, and for reasons that I still really don't understand why he wants it, he should be worried about the Europeans. He should be worried about the NATO's, about the alliance, and what they're going to do. It won't be good, regardless of what happens. Joseph with it, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Always nice to see you. Spam Hat, you're a Minnesota meat fan? Hey, brother, I visited the Spam Museum in Minnesota. Shout out to all of Minneapolis and Minnesota right now. I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking that on the TNA deal. If it was so advantageous, they would be broadcasting out like Chris. Of course they would. Of course they would. What, are you kidding me? They want to be the number 2 promotion in the United States. They want to, like, that's their goal. And do you think they'd stay silent about that? The fact that nothing is leaked is embarrassing. Because you know who would leak this to media? It'd be someone from within TNA. But they're all, someone who, a higher up. But no one's doing it because the terms aren't that great. I promise, I swear it has to be an ad split. It has to be. I've heard people say, oh, they're buying time. I don't think so. I don't think they're buying time. That doesn't make any sense. And it'd be so expensive to do that, as opposed to when, buying network time in the 90s, that wasn't, it was expensive, but not as ridiculously expensive as it'd be today. I don't think that's what it is. But it's clearly not titillating and exciting and something that you can thump your chest on, because they'd do it. Why? They would absolutely do it. We don't even know how long the deal is, right? Like, it's not even like, oh, it's a 5-year deal. Like, we know jack shit. Might even be on a trial basis. Might be like for 90 days. We don't know. Probably not. That'd be very weird. That would be weird and desperate. I don't think Carlos Silva is the deal maker everyone makes him out to be. I really don't. But, extremely 100% due to the fact that they want to be number 2 so bad, and they're not not crowing about this deal. There's no way that it's something really significant. But they're going to continue to say that they're the number 2 deal, right? And this is like, I'm going back to Matt Hardy here for a second, but I think like last week or the week before, I don't quite remember. I think it was last week at some point. He has his podcast and then he gets quoted on stuff, and he was saying something to the effect of, that TNA, he was saying something to the effect of whether TNA is like okay, no, it was more, okay, I think I remember properly now. He says TNA won't be number 2 as far as money goes and capital goes, right? But they'll be number 2. They can be number 2 in a perception wise, right? So what Matt Hardy was essentially saying effectively was, regardless of the facts, regardless as to whether or not TNA is an actual number 2 or not, if we convince people enough that we are the number 2, they will believe we're number 2. Wonder what kind of playbook he got that from. So he's essentially laying out the strategy here with all these people with their podcasts and whatnot, all of these influencers and Twitter blue check marks and whatnot. That's essentially the strategy. Say enough that TNA is the number 2 and people will start to believe it because it's just a question of perception. Whereas in reality, there is one other promotion than WWE who is on 2 different networks under the same media banner, who is being paid about $100 million a year for their show. And they're filling out stadiums, they're international, and so on and so forth. That to me is that is what a number 2 is. Whatever this number 2, the TNA is not a number 2 promotion. It is easily shadowed into a number 3, like very, very distinctly, like, a little kid sitting in a grown-up chair type of number 3. It's getting kind of sad, but on the opposite, we have to keep pushing back on this because look, we see how everything operates in the media right now, not just in pro wrestling, everywhere. That the more you let a lie spread, even though you might sit back as an intelligent human being, might sit back and then chuckle at it and go, well, this is too preposterous for anyone to believe. Well, people will end up believing it. And then it will become a truth. Not the truth, a truth. Wonder if I can get the actual quote. This I should have talked about. This I should have put on the... There we go. I think I have it right here. Okay, he was talking about he was on his podcast talking about things that the predictions that he's making for the new year, right? And he says TNA will push for the perception of the number 2 pro wrestling company in 2026. Right? And he said it himself. I think this TNA new TV deal with AMC is going to totally help TNA ascend to the next level. It is going to put TNA back on the level of being a major promotion. Does Matt know the details? This is what's so fucking infuriating and why this question of perception is exactly right? Like, this is exactly it. This new deal is going to push them up to number 2 without a shadow of a doubt. What are the details? How are we so certain about this? What is convincing all these people that this deal that no one knows about outside of Carlos Silva and a few people up top, how do we know this is going to push them to number 2? Obviously, monetarily, we're not going to be doing the same deal, especially for media rights, as AEW is currently, but it is going to look and feel like a big time promotion. He's absolutely right. I think it's going to look bigger and bigger, and we're going to be back in the game where they're going to talk about, the top 3. You're going to hear more. Usually it's just like, WWE, AEW. TNA is going to be in that conversation after this year, after 6 months or so. He's absolutely right. This is the strategy. The perception of being number 2. He said it himself. TNA is not in AEW's league, but we're going to pretend we are. We're going to make sure that people pretend that we're in the same league as AEW, so that we're going to talk about 3 promotions instead of just 2. It's an incredibly carny thing. It's an incredibly carny thing, but it's also how media works these days. Because like Stephen Colbert used to say, there's no most thing, it's not about the truth, it's about the truthiness. And this is a textbook example. Matt Hardy with the R. Kelly logic. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly, pretty much. It's completely dopey. It's completely dopey. Maybe there wasn't that much to talk about, but that's like, I would love to know how all these people are convinced that, TNA is a viable number 2 now because of the media deal, when no one has a clue what the media deal is like. I am so excited for the day that someone actually leaks the details. And then these people have to deal with it. And then these people have to you know what? This kind of sucks. It's like how enough people keep saying I'm Hornswoggle, even though... it's like people kept saying I'm Hornswoggle enough to where now people believe I actually am him. You're not? All right, that's enough. That's enough out of me for now on all this nonsense. Thank you everyone for showing up, for being here. I appreciate it tremendously. You are all terrific human beings, and I love you. So listen, we're going to get to our docket in a second and whatnot, but friendly reminders. I've got the Dynamite review that is out today, and listen, I am trying my best to find the proper implementation of the lapel mic that I received as a lovely Christmas gift from my fiance, and I don't know exactly. I'm trying all sorts of different things. Today was a better experiment, but also the audio, I think, turned out to not be all that great, and I really thought I had nailed it. So, as I said, I'm trying stuff out live with it, and I think that one of the issues that I'm running into is that the room in which I record is very roomy. I have hardwood floors, very high ceilings, and I think I'm assuming that the compression on the microphone is non-existent, and it's probably better suited as being something in a very better controlled environment than it is here. I don't know. But if you can bear through the audio, I mean, it's not disgusting. It's not disgustingly bad, but it's not up to a standard that I feel comfortable with. So if you can bear through the audio, I invite you to give it a shot to listen to this week's Dynamite review for another very good Dynamite. We're on a roll here. It's feeling good. It wasn't a perfect show, but there was a lot more good than there was bad on it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it tremendously. So be sure to give it a listen when you have the occasion to, and then I'll be back on Monday for another live stream, right? Yeah, another live stream coming back on Monday, and then back to the grind next week, and so on and so forth. So everything is back to normal. It's no more Fantasyland, no more kookiness over here. With holidays and all of that. So there you go. I appreciate all the likes on the stream so far. If you haven't already, leave a like if you can. There's another Jackass movie coming. I didn't hear about that. Is there another Jackass movie coming? Jesus Christ. What are they what are they going to do, they're already, how much more can they hurt each other? Are they going to measure how long their scrotums have become over the years? 'Cause that's a real thing, fellas. That's a real thing. Gravity's going to come for your scrotums. Bam is back. Really? Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting and good for him. DJ Convoy, nice to see you and welcome. Also a member of the channel. Thank you, my man. I appreciate the love. And say hello to the missus. To the musses. Jackass 5 Darby climbs Everest. Yeah, pretty much. Also, I've been casting aspersions on the alleged TNA deal pretty much since the day it was announced. All of the figures were reported and not by TNA AMC. Well, they were reported by that one guy that everyone sort of distrusts. And everyone was like, we're not quite sure what these numbers are. The guy was saying they were making like $1 million a year or something. Look, again, it's important to note that whatever deal I said it at the time, and I said it today, and I'll say it again. It's a better deal, right? It's a better deal TNA has right now than what they did just a year ago. It is unquestionably, without a doubt, a better deal, but. How is it number 2 promotion in the land good? That's what that's what I'm kind of unsure about. Anyway. Oh, well, I guess we might as well just go right to it, right? There's nothing holding us back.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Okay.
I'm a nunchuck master, and I represent NWA, Mountain State Wrestling.
Hoo-yah! Patrick, always coming out of the woodwork. Nice to see you. Always coming out of the woodwork when it's Hoo-yah time. Welcome to the channel. Member of the channel on top of that. Has anyone ever Shazammed that song? I just thought of it like right now. I can't do it because I don't have my phone. Well, I have my phone, but everything going through my ears, I can't really. Or maybe I can do it. Hang on a second. Hang on. I think I could do it. Like, we've never Shazammed this song, is my point. Hang on a second. Okay, Google, what's this song?
I'm a nunchuck master.
No, wait.
Booyah!
It's not coming out of my speakers. Why? Oh, because of this? Okay, there we go. Okay. We're going to try this again. Okay, Google, can you tell me what this song is? It's not cooperating. Why is it not cooperating? Okay, Google, what's this song? It's not cooperating. AI sucks, brothers. Well, we knew this. Because I don't have the Shazam app installed. Anyway. What a great pose right there from our boy Jacques. All right. So this is our docket tonight. We've got some leftover topics from last week. Well, not last week, from Monday. That we got. So we've got a few things here to cover. Maybe we could do something like this. No, we'll do something like this. Excuse me. Then maybe like this. And maybe why don't we start with the funniest news of the day? Or it's not really of the day, but it's the funniest news I have encountered. I think this is fucking hilarious. Have you heard about this? I don't know if you've heard, but there's a lot of people, WWE fans, who are very dissatisfied with the direction that WWE is going in right now, and they want new stars. They want the people that they really like, to be up on main roster, doing main roster things. And one guy that a lot of people really, really like is Javon Evans, and with reason. There's multiple reasons to be excited about the future prospects of Javon Evans. I think he's a great pro wrestler. Now the problem is, before we move, this is one of the things that we're going to see over the next couple of weeks. We are going to see Paul Levesque pull popular moves. He's going to do things to get people excited about WWE again. Now, instead of turning around and trying to fix his creative process or trying to come up with some really fresh ideas, Paul is going to go back and he's going to pull out one of his old chestnuts, which is the new stars, the debuts. He's going to go back to debuts. Now he's got at least one surprise debut up his sleeve, which is truly his favorite hallmark, but he's going to distract away from all of the bad stuff that he's been doing, and not use it as a moment of self-reflection to wonder, hey, maybe I could be doing things differently. No. He is going to bring up some people from NXT, such as Javon Evans, who is very, very well liked by the WWE universe, and is going to feature him to a degree. All right. Now, WWE fans, and like I said, not even WWE fans, even, a guy like myself really does like Javon Evans. And you'd think that, WWE fans would be excited to see him and that they'd make somewhat of a big deal out of it. And my screen is burning my retinas again. This is what happens. It's like when I do some editing, not when I do some editing, when I do some research, when I do some editing, excuse me, I raise the contrast and the brightness from the monitor so that I can get a more natural look. But then when it's time to read, it's like I don't need it to be that I don't need it to be scalding, my eyeballs. So Javon Evans has been sporadically appearing on WWE's main. This is an article off of the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online, by the way. Javon Evans has been sporadically appearing on WWE's main roster shows for months, but on Monday, he joined the Raw roster on a full-time basis. Raw General Manager Adam Pearce brought Evans out before the crowd in the Barclays Center during a commercial break. We're off to the races here, folks. He called Evans, quote, one of the most exciting prospects to ever come through WWE, unquote, and said he wanted to bring Evans out live to sign his contract and become a part of the Raw roster, but do this all during a commercial break. Evans immediately signed, and Pearce declared it was official. Later on, Paul Triple H Levesque posted a backstage pic with Evans and his new contract. Evans had been spotted earlier in the day on Becky Lynch's vlog, along with fellow NXT wrestler Nikita Lyons. Yuck. He went on to wrestle Julius Creed before Raw in a match taped for WWE main event. That's a bad picture. Legitimately. Javon, that's a terrible picture. That's really, really bad. Rory Starks, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I mean, that's a really bad picture. So, even though Triple H is definitely like scavenging to regain some goodwill back, and now he's like, well, we're going to start bringing up these really popular figures from NXT to just create some buzz and get the fans back on my side again. He can't even do it right. Like if I'm Javon Evans, how much am I betting that WWE are interested in me if they're going to trot me out for a live signing but not even broadcast it during the show? Oh yeah, no. It appeared everywhere else than in the United States, because everywhere else, like in Canada, for example, Raw and Netflix doesn't have commercials. So if I had been watching, which I wasn't, I would have seen it. But that's not the case. When asked to comment on Evans signing his contract during a commercial break, our own Brian Alvarez replied, LOL. Look, this is all, it like, this is not good. And it's funny. It's funny because, Triple H is actively like working against himself, and that's fine. And now they're doing it, and chat brought it up, right? It's the same thing with Obafemi. They're bringing up Obafemi, who vacated the title, the NXT championship, from what I understand. Just left it in the ring and walked away, which, it's, all right. It doesn't matter. It's the NXT title, but, I have this is what Triple H is gearing up to do. And he's going to save Obafemi for the Royal Rumble. Just like he's saving Chris Jericho for the Royal Rumble, right? These are the things that he wants because he knows he has to score. Because I don't know if you all remember how fucking dismal the Royal Rumble was last year. That was a bad show. That was a bad Rumble. And the year before was not particularly any better. But this is what Triple H does. You know, this is what he does. He lines up the surprises, the debuts. That's what he's good at. And you'd think, you know, he'd take a moment to have some self-reflection, sit back and sort of, you know, it's like, well, what is it that we're doing wrong, and so on and so forth. But no, he's not. So anyway, that to me is like just that's a little funny little tidbit of news to kick things off with here. Let's talk about AEW and their pay-per-views. Again, article off of the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online. Shout out to our boy Josh Nason. Early estimates for last weekend's AEW World's End pay-per-view when it comes to how many people purchased it. Okay, excuse me, I misread. Let me... I misread very simple English. The early estimates are in for last weekend's AEW World's End pay-per-view when it comes to how many people purchased it, giving an additional estimate on AEW's total pay-per-view buys for 2025. In this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer estimated the Saturday show in the range of 140,000 buys worldwide, which would make it their best success on pay-per-view since July's All In Texas, which was their benchmark for the year, and in line with November's Full Gear. That number would include both linear, traditional, and digital. So HBO Max, Triller, etc. At the post-event press conference, AEW head Tony Khan said the numbers were very good, according to the numbers he had. Meltzer wrote, two people with knowledge of the overall numbers both said it would do as good or slightly better than Full Gear. And then we have the estimates for the entire year for AEW's pay-per-view lineup. Revolution, earlier in March, did between 135 to 140,000 buys. Dynasty did 110 to 120,000 buys. Double or Nothing, 122 to 130,000 buys. All In, 180 to 185,000 buys. Forbidden Door, 122 to 130. All Out, 135 to 140. Wrestle Dream, 115 to 125. Full Gear, 140,000. And World's End should be around that same vicinity. And if we're talking about totals for the year 2025, the high end estimate is 1.25 million buys, and the low end would be around 1.19. And I think that's a very good, solid year of pay-per-view purchases. And look, if World's End did that well, then it is. I think there might be a couple of. Reasons for that, and one of them obviously has to do with the drawing capacity. I think people were really into. Yeah, I don't know how much people were into the world title situation, but it bears to reason that with how popular the Continental Classic has been this year, how well received it has been, and it has been a tremendous. It has been. I'm talking as if it's still on. It has been an extremely good tournament this year. I think it generated a lot of buzz amongst wrestling fans. Plus, their capacity to have built Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita on the card as well, that they've been building for months, and then announcing it and delivering it. I think these are all elements that have contributed to people getting excited for the show and deciding to jump in and buy it. And I also think that the ease of access to the pay-per-views via HBO Max for a lot of people who are subscribers, I think that probably has an impact too. Didn't Tony Khan say in a radio, did I have it lined up? I did not line it up, but he said, like, in an interview on some podcast, never mind, by the way, shout out Tony. But he did say on a podcast something to the effect that Wrestle Dream was the highest grossing pay-per-view event in HBO Max history, type of thing, like or the one with the most buys, I should say. So something to that effect. Well, I legitimately believe that the ease of access to it is also contributing to these higher numbers, especially for World's End, which in reality, like, let's get real here. World's End is it's a B-level pay-per-view. It's not all in. It's not all out. It's not Revolution. Double or Nothing, it should be one of those, but it's a little on the lower end of the range, right? But and Full Gear, like, those are like your main attraction pay-per-views. Those are like the original pay-per-views. So you'd expect people to be more inclined to buy those because I guess there's more trust in that brand and that the name of the show to deliver something big. Whereas World's End is, it's a B show. It's been the wrap-up show of the year. It 2 years in a row main evented with a multi-man match, or at least that the World Championship is decided in a multi-man match. I think there has been an extreme amount of I think people have been I think the idea of just having really easy access to the pay-per-view is helping, but I don't think that that's the main contributor. I would 100% say that your main driver for this pay-per-view was the Continental Classic, was Takeshita and Okada, which is something that they had been building for months at this point and that AEW fans were really excited to see. And I guess, like, am I going to sit here once again and talk about how pro wrestling draws above anything else? Like, with the finals of the Continental Classic, a tournament which is just made to be all about pro wrestling without any shenanigans, without any nonsense. Am I going to sit here and say, hey, once again, we have put our money where our fucking mouths are, Tony Khan, and proven to you that the Continental Classic is a draw, that pro wrestling is a draw, that people are into it, and that you could push this more than you do? This, like, it's these types of thoughts that and especially when you have compelling evidence like this that shows that people are into pro wrestling. That's the kind of stuff that makes me even more justified to have gotten really upset when Kazuchika Okada pulled out the screwdriver and attacked Konosuke Takeshita with it. It makes me all the more upset. And since we're on the topic, because I just thought of it here, did not have this plan, but I remember being upset about it online and people telling me, oh, well, clearly, Warren, This was Don Callis. He had planted this for Kyle Fletcher because Kyle was looking for it in the other match, and but Okada decided to use it. So that's going to create frictions within the Don Callis family. And I'm like, First of all, I'm not going to be excited for a result because of the headcanon that I'm creating down the line. First and foremost. Second of all, it's been 2 weeks now, 2 weeks removed since World's End, and we have not even fucking addressed this the screwdriver thing from within the Don Callis family. Oh, but Warren, they were over in Japan doing New Japan stuff. They were there last week. Literally 5 days ago at this point. If the boss wants them to come into work on a Wednesday after wrestling on a Monday, I think they can make the date. But it's been 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, and Kyle Fletcher has to be around. Why hasn't he said anything? Why hasn't he confronted Don Callis about it? But it's all headcanon now. Now it's all like people who made up the excuses, and we haven't even fucking addressed it on Dynamite. We haven't had the infighting. Now, watch them start talking about it next week, right? Because I still highly suspect that there are people over there that listen to this podcast. Pop into these streams and listen to what I have to say. Now watch them next week. They'll bring it up. But where's this grand compelling tale that started to get weaved at World's End? We're 2 weeks removed. Next week, Maximum Carnage is going to be 3 full weeks removed. And we haven't heard a single thing from within the Don Callis family. Not a single peep. Great, compelling, awesome storytelling. Good job. What a great device. Revolution is nine weeks away. Okay. They can they have a show in Australia coming up that they also have to sort of create some anticipation for. And again, this was a story. This was a tale, apparently, that was going to be unlocked because of the screwdriver. 3 weeks in, and we haven't heard anything of it. Nothing. That's all I'm saying. Shenanigans will always be a part of weekly TV, but wrestling draws for pay-per-view. Tell that to Bruce Pritchard. I hear pro wrestling is a big draw in the pro wrestling industry. Did you know that pro wrestling, did you know that pro wrestling has very little to do with pro wrestling? It's about stories. Did you know that though? See, you're not a very contemporary pro wrestling watcher. But Warren, my headcanon is all I have to get excited for the new Avengers movie. Sidebar. I love Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom has always been one of he's always been one of the class Marvel supervillains. Like, Doctor Doom is legitimately awesome. All right. And even I have trouble. As a guy who really, really likes Doctor Doom, even I have trouble getting hyped up for another series of Avengers movies based off of the presence of Doctor Doom. And now apparently Captain America's coming back. I don't know. It kind of all feels very Paul Levesque-ish to me right now. The Don Callis family did just add 2 new members in the adventure party. Lots of moving parts. I love how comically large the Don Callis family is now. It's awesome. And the thing that's, because the people who don't watch the show will draw comparisons to the NWO and stuff like that, and they'll say, well, the NWO got too big. But the thing here with the Don Callis family, here's the main difference. The NWO was created, their whole goal was essentially to take down WCW and take over, right? That was their thing. So they needed strength and numbers and whatnot. The Don Callis family is not about taking over AEW. It's just a bunch of dudes who all want to, succeed, make money, and so they join up with Don because he's got stroke. He knows what he's doing. Like he's had legitimate success as a manager in AEW. And Don is like, yeah, the more guys I have, the more money I'll make. And he spreads across the entire, he'll spread across the entire card, right? From the lower card up to the main event scene. Because that way, he'll be making his percentage on every win, whether it's a curtain jerker, whether it's like, Rocky Romero and Trent wrestling a pre-show match, or Kyle Fletcher in the main event, or, Kazuchika Okada in the main event. He's making a percentage everywhere. It's also brilliant. It's just guys who just want to make money, who just want to get together to make the most money possible. Just win and ergo make more money because they're getting the winner's cut of the purse. So that's the thing. Like ultimately, it doesn't matter. And the most important thing about the Don Callis family versus the NWO is that commentary, the entire promotion is not built around the Don Callis family. Or as to what are the plans? Will they be successful? And commentary talking about the Don Callis family during cruiserweight matches. What you've got is just like a huge bunch of guys who are just all affiliated with each other because they know their strength in numbers and they just want to make money. That's all. That's all they want. Bruce Pritchard would say that because what stories does WWE have in a post-Bloodline world? Oh, well, hang on a second. I don't watch the show. I'm telling, I'm spinning right now for something, but I don't know. I don't know. Wait, there's the story. They're running this new angle, this new story where Jade Cargill legitimately injures people. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Currently booking Don Callis family versus Vecna and the Mind Flayer from Stranger Things. Don Callis will win. All right. So there we go for that. The Demand is a side faction of the Don Callis family. Well, here's the thing. It's like, this is what I like about AEW, right? Is that you can have your friends and you can have like, your teammates, your groupings, right? Your units, I guess. But then, like, there can still be some crossover, and people are not going to get weird about it. It's going to be like, why are you talking to this guy? Are you trying to backstab me? No, it's like, the heels work with the heels. It's like, it happened in the past with MJF and the Don Callis family. I don't know if you recall that. MJF would hire services from Don Callis to get some jobs done, right? Even with the elite, right? That was more with the, excuse me. before, well, no, it's like I was gonna say like the Young Bucks evil elite, right? Well, they worked with both the Death Riders and the Don Callis family a little bit too, right? There was a little bit of both, but Ricochet being in the good graces, I guess he sees an advantage for that, and they're all opportunistic heels. Why wouldn't they all just be working with each other right now? John Moxley, the Death Rider, is working with the Don Callis family. That'd be a little weird because they're not motivated by the same principles. But the point, or even like on the babyface side, right, where you have mix and match with you have Orange Cassidy hanging out, with Tony Storm recently, right, having a good connection there. Well, no one's going, no one in the conglomeration's going, well, I don't know if you should still be in the conglomeration. You have to pick, or it's just people having fucking normal human relationships. To me, this is much more believable. It's a lot less cartoonish. Since we're on the topic of All Elite Wrestling, again, another article from the Figure 4 Online Observer. Tony Khan commented on AEW's possible involvement in the G1 Climax this summer. The tournament will kick off in Chicago at the Now Arena on July 11. We're going to talk about that, I guess, a bit. During an appearance on the Battleground podcast, Khan said he expects AEW wrestlers to be included in the tournament and discussed his working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Khan was asked if he had creative input when AEW wrestlers are booked for New Japan tournaments. He responded, quote, "No. New Japan may come to me to book wrestlers in the tournament, but how they handle their business, that's completely New Japan's prerogative. But we may work together. I think there could potentially be involvement from AEW wrestlers. I believe there will be based on our early talks. So I'm excited about that and the G1 coming to America, coming this summer to America." Khan was also asked about New Japan Pro Wrestling referring to Andrade as an AEW wrestler at Wrestle Kingdom 20 and New Year's Dash, and whether there was an update on his status. Well, I'd say that bodes well, wouldn't you? I think it bodes very well. Well, we all know what happened there. And then he addressed once again this fucking idea about wrestlers having creative control. This is something that exists in the minds of only the dopiest people on Twitter, by the way. And Khan answered what Warren Hayes has been saying every fucking time this topic comes up, whether it's Mercedes Moné or MJF, it's the same thing. There is no creative control. Only I have it. No wrestler has that. There's a lot of freedom to work with the staff and the coaches and the wrestlers together and come up with ideas. I am one of the most collaborative people on the planet. So, okay, first of all, I'm getting carried away. First of all, let's talk about the reason why we pulled this article up, which is AEW wrestlers involved in the G1. I think it is something. I think it is something interesting because right now, what AEW has to be careful of in regards to its positioning in Japan with its partner is not to overload the presence of All Elite Wrestling wrestlers in New Japan, because there is a legitimate gripe from New Japan fans that feel like AEW is a little too present and maybe not the best partner. And whether you agree with that or not is against the point at this stage, because that's the perception that exists right now. That's the perception. Which is why a guy like Yota Tsuji on the lead up to Wrestle Kingdom was saying that AEW is not a good partner, and was very critical of the relationship between New Japan and AEW, because he knew what he was doing. He knew what he had to do to speak to the audience that he wanted to get behind him, because if you get the smart fans behind you, there's a very good chance that, you'll be untouchable and you'll be safe, right? So I think he was, and I still think he's very much working, right? And going along with, the decision that he made to say, well, the IWGP heavyweight title is only going to be defended by New Japan signed wrestlers, contracted wrestlers, and the global title is going to be for, international shots and invaders, right? As he called it. I believe it was the term invaders that he used. But I know a lot of people get bothered with that. It doesn't bother me because the guy is working. And what it ultimately indicates is that there is, because of these responses, because of these discussions going around in Japan, there is a large amount of fans who are put off by AEW. All right. Now, I think the most preposterous thing to get upset about is the fact that AEW decimated the roster and took everyone away. And I think that's proper bullshit. And it is up to the company to do it. It's up to the company to decide what to do with their wrestlers, with the creatively money and so on and so forth. That's not on AEW's. That's not AEW's issue, right? AEW, all they had to do was AEW played fair and was just like, look, Kazuchika Okada, we are ready to offer you these sacks of money for you to come over and wrestle. And here's something that a lot of people don't want to hear. But if AEW hadn't been around, Kazuchika Okada would very likely be wrestling in WWE today. And that's just the reality of it. He same situation, no AEW. Well, Kazuchika Okada is a World Wrestling Entertainment professional wrestler. That's all there is to it. New Japan didn't have the money or didn't have the whatever to be able to hang on to Okada or Ospreay or Jay White and so on and so forth. And, but also at the same time, these guys felt that they had hit their ceilings, right? Not a ceiling, hit the maximum they could do creatively within the company. And they were like, well, let's go do something somewhere else. And I can't tell you guys enough how fucking healthy it is for wrestlers to do that. And it should happen more. Now, the inherent problem in that is not AEW calling people away or whisking them away. It's New Japan not being ready to answer the call when these people started disappearing. And you could say, well, they got blindsided, but they got blindsided by two guys. They legitimately got blindsided with Okada and Ospreay, which were arguably the two of the biggest stars in the company. Okada was the biggest star in the company. But they should have been preparing regardless for the departure of Hiroshi Tanahashi and the departure of Tetsuya Naito. And even if you didn't know that Naito was leaving, Naito, is so broken down now, you had to have other people ready to go. You had to be able to, you should have been able to get some people lined up to come and take these spots. So if New Japan had done its job properly, and instead of living in the past was trying to look towards the future and start pushing new guys, well, the losses of Okada and Ospreay would not have hit as hard. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have hit hard, but not as hard, because then you'd be like, you know what? We're fine because look at these 2 or 3 guys. Look at these fellas coming up. We're fine. Yeah, and I think New Japan has finally figured it out. I think they finally understand that situation. We'll see how it plays out over the next couple of months, but I've been hearing some very encouraging things regarding booking and creative plans backstage. And anyway, don't want to go too deep, but I've been hearing some very encouraging things. So it's like, so all of this to say, that AEW should be prudent about, how far they go and who they send and whatnot, right? I think it makes sense with the G1 kicking off in the United States on July 11. I think it makes sense for them to, them meaning them meaning the AEW. I think it makes sense that they would have some kind of presence in the G1. But then don't forget that person then leaves for the rest of the month, right into mid-August. So, well, for the rest of the month. Yeah, for 1 month, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. So, should they have, and especially this year, when New Japan's back is legitimately against the wall, right? When they absolutely have to be looking inward to promote new guys, right? We've got a full 7 months before we actually reach the G1 and have to see what they're going to be laying out. But we have a full 7 months leading up. Are we going to be in a position where, when I say we, is New Japan going to be in a position where they're like, yes, let's invite people from other promotions to join, the G1, or will they be more in a spot where they'd be like, yeah, no, we really have to focus on our guys. We have to finish this G1 with 3 or 4 dudes that everyone points to and says, okay, here are the superstars, right? Because let's say they do send Claudio, which I think would be a solid choice. Claudio will come back. Claudio will be taking someone's spot, is what I was trying to say. He'll be taking a pushed commodity spot because Claudio is not going to be joining the G1 to be a pin eater. He's not going to be jumping in to take, Yujiro Takahashi's spot. He's going to be in there to, at the very least, get an even Steven record. I would say probably even qualify for the playoffs, whatever form they take this year. So my point being is that Claudio takes a spot. Whose spot does he take? Shota Umino? Yeah, sure. No one gives a fuck about Shota Umino at this point. But would people care if it was, probably people would care more if it was a guy like Ryohei Oiwa, if it was a guy like Yuto Ice. My new favorite thing is, the hiss at the end of Yuto Ice. That's the funniest thing. But this is just something you have to keep in mind. That if Claudio is a guy who comes in and is pushed throughout the G1, then he's taking someone's spot, right? He's taking someone's spot. Just like if they invite someone from CMLL, they'll be taking someone's spot. And I am all for these tournaments having an international flair. It makes them more credible, makes them fun. There's something unexpected. You always end up with new matches, new first-time matches, right? So it's like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positives. What I'm saying to you, audience, is temper your expectations but we'll revisit this as we move along. Temper your expectations because New Japan, if they're smart, New Japan has to focus on themselves first before bringing other people in and making them look good in their super prestigious wrestling tournament. They have to make their own stars, and they have no more choice. They have no choice other than to create mega stars this year. This is what New Japan has to do. They had their back against the wall last year. Now the wall is gone and they're in a free fall because they're not doing 50,000 or 46,900 and something. What was the number? Something to that effect. They're not doing that in the Dome next year. I hope everyone realizes that. They're not doing that again next year. And they got to do everything in their power to, at the very least, hit the numbers that they were doing previously. Like for Wrestle Kingdom 19, for instance, and 18. At the very least, we have to get back. We have to at least hit those numbers, right? If we start going lower than that, then the promotion is in a worse spot than they believed. So, it's a delicate line to juggle. I think one person from AEW is absolutely fine, but if people are like expecting, I'd love Claudio and I don't know, name someone else. I saw Powerhouse Hobbs getting thrown around yesterday, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Well, 2 guys I think is too much, and does nothing for New Japan in this circumstance here. Now, let's say in 5 years from now, when the gravy train is rolling and we've got the top guys in the soup, and everything is perfect. Now you're like, okay, let's open up the gates. Let's get more people in here. Now that the money's flowing, everyone's back. Let's just keep this ball rolling, kind of thing, right? Because otherwise, don't forget, like there's 10 spots per block, I think. 10 spots. It looks like a lot, but it really isn't. Anyway. But we'll see how it goes. But listen. The fact that Tony, this early in the year, in January, is saying, yeah, I think you can expect an AEW presence in the G1, means there's going to be someone from AEW in the G1. He wouldn't be saying that if he didn't feel like that was something that was going to happen. So that is something that's going to happen. Now, what Tony has to do next year is put someone from this year, I should say, is put someone from New Japan in the C2. And again, not Tomohiro Ishii, who is part of the AEW fabric now, or Katsuyori Shibata. No, then you bring in a guy, then you bring in a Yuto Ice, you bring in a Yuya Umera, then you bring in, a Ryohei Oiwa. You bring in someone who is absolutely in the fabric of New Japan. Gabe Kidd's not going to count. Besides, Gabe Kidd might, anyway. Gabe Kidd's not going to count because he's a regular in AEW now, So it's like you bring in those dudes and you bring in those guys. You bring in one guy who is part of the fabric of New Japan, and then you add a little more gusto to the C2, which is important. It's silly, but I think like adding a guy like Mascara Dorada, who again is heavily rumored to have a dual contract, but nonetheless added a little more excitement to it. Like, his matches were all first-time matches, pretty much, right? Trying to think back, I think there was only one that was that wasn't. But anyway, so that's all I'm saying. I think that. I reasonable minds will understand that New Japan is in a spot this year where they really have to focus on building their stars, and their objective is not to cater to AEW wrestlers. Their job is to cater to their fans and the future of New Japan. And so they have to be building, they have to start building new guys. This tournament is going to be very, very important for that. And hopefully they don't fuck it up. But, we'll talk about this again, like in July. But it's still an interesting thought to have early on in the year. Anakin JMT, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show for 67 months. Holy smokes. Thank you for your undivided membership, Anakin. I appreciate it. Inviting everyone to join the Fantasy Critic League or be a square, which is what we are starting to run on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. I believe tomorrow is when we're starting. And Anakin is handling all of this. But we're doing a Fantasy Critic League for video games on the Discord, and it's going to be cool. It's the first time I'm going to be doing it. I think I understand how it works, but you should join and figure out how it works with me, and that'll be tremendous. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you, but I think this is a really good time to join, and there's going to be a prize for the winner at the end of the year, a $15 gift card for the gaming service of your choice, whether it be Steam or the Xbox or the PlayStation or the Switch or the Game Gear or the Neo Geo or the Genesis, etc., etc. Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. She also just happens to be a member of the channel. I'm sorry, it's Gladio with the G. I'm gonna fuck up and mispronounce it all the time now. Big Man Dogs, nice to see you too. Welcome to the chat. And the Ouya, yes, the Ouya. That's right. You can, or Stadia. We could do that as well. 15. We could get a nice little gift card for any of these exciting consoles, gaming services, Epic Games, Good Old Games, itch.io. Most of it is free on itch.io. You don't even, it's like, you know, you can get really good games for free on itch.io. Power Wash Simulator is a game you'd really like. I keep telling you over and over again. Yeah, even the phony console that Soldier Boy had that ended up being just like an emulator with a bunch of ROMs in it. What a fucking story that was. I had forgotten about that. And real quickly, because we're bringing up the creative control again, once more, I must say, I got to tell you, I must use this tired phrase. People should listen to Warren more. Because that's all I say. Over and over and over and fucking again. That's all I say. Whenever this topic comes up, that MJF does whatever he wants, that he has creative control, that Mercedes Moné has creative control, this is it. Again, Tony has said this before, and we're reiterating again. This is what he's saying. There's no creative control, only I have it. No wrestler has it. There's a lot of freedom to work with the staff and the coaches and the wrestlers together, having come up with ideas. I'm one of the most collaborative people on the planet. I'm pretty collaborative, quite frankly. I don't know. I challenge Tony Khan on that front, quite honestly. That being said, there is no creative control. There's one guy through all that filters all these ideas and puts a stamp on it. Whatever you see on television goes through Tony Khan. No one else bypasses it. No one says, this is what we're going to be doing. He stamps everything. Now, where things get a little dicier, where things that, now that we're in moment, here's how the reality of these things work. Because everyone would love for things to be really binary and say, this guy has creative control. This lady has creative control. And just be able to put everything in little pockets. But real life doesn't exactly work that way. Tony listens to his staff. He listens to wrestlers. And guess what? He has favorites. He has people he really likes. He's got people he wants to push. So he listens to these people's ideas. And a lot of times he likes these ideas. And he goes, okay, we're going to do this. Such as Max. MJF, for instance, doesn't have creative control. And anyone who's still saying that is just, a bad faither. But MJF does not have creative control in AEW. But he does have the ear of the boss, and the boss just happens to really like Max and really like Max's ideas. So what does he do? So what does Max do? He goes to the boss. He says, hey, we should do this. The boss says, it's a great idea. Let's do it. And then we do it. And then people get upset because Max has free reign. Max doesn't have free reign. It's easy. Look, I am not defending every single idea that MJF has ever come up with. That would be an exercise in futility. But it's also extremely bad faith to say, you know, Max goes unchecked. That's a little wrong. A lot wrong. It's the same thing with Mercedes. Somehow, Mercedes going on the belt collector gimmick was based on the fact that she didn't want a job to anyone. And that somehow this was in her contract. She had creative control over this. It's Tony who okayed this idea. And he says, you know what? Let's be bold. Let's try this. And when he says there's a lot of freedom to work with the staff and the coaches, that means, you know, these people usually, that means, you know, go work out the details. But what I want on this show is I want this, and that. He said it himself just, last week. I come up with the outlines for the shows. And then I pass the outlines on to the staff and they fill out the details. And then they figure it out. But it's not Tony sitting down like Vince used to do and work through every fucking little line of dialogue until, you know, we had to tear up the entire script 2 hours before the start of the show. That's not how it works. And if there are wrestlers that you see often on television that seem to have, you know, run of the place, they don't have run of the place. They are just following what the boss wants. And quite frankly, here's the thing, is that any wrestler who would be able to exert this much influence on the booker as you know, a lot of these guys apparently can, they'd all do the same. More TV time for me, bigger, bolder ideas, and they'd all do that. They all do that. They all fucking do that. And every wrestler that has the opportunity to do it will take it. That's just it. Like that's how Tony works. When you piece it all together, it becomes so much clearer. It becomes so much clearer. And I don't understand how anyone then turns around and starts talking about wrestlers having creative control. It makes no sense. Tony has taken the time towards the end of 2025 to explain how the creative process works. Once again, like he's here talking about creative control. I don't even know why these guys brought it up again. Why we keep talking about creative control. You know, I don't know why this is constantly a subject. We understand how it works. Just like we understood how it worked with Vince, we understand how it works with Tony. That's all. The Mercedes thing is funny because she said it on an IG Live or something and people believed her so hard they can't admit they got worked. I mean, yes. Yes. And I mean, they all got worked regardless because they all thought that she was, that she was Mercedes Hogan or whatever, right? So they're all getting worked. So whatever Mercedes was doing was working. Whatever Mercedes did throughout her international global reign with all the titles, it all worked. And one thing that I found interesting and that I forgot to talk about on the Dynamite review today, and I'm the worst, is that it's very, very interesting to me that Mercedes ends up losing the TBS title and she didn't come out with any other of her belts. She doesn't find any solace in any of the other belts that she's collected. She's just very, very upset, heartbroken, distraught that she lost the TBS title. And that is smart. That is smart booking because it indicates to the viewer that the AEW championships matter the most in AEW, of course. Because this is what I was apprehensive on, and I'm glad they didn't go this way, but I was afraid that they were going to do something where Mercedes comes out and she still has all the gold and she goes, it doesn't matter, doing a 100% WWE trope, one that I could not stand anymore, back when I was still watching, right? Follow me on this. Whenever someone would lose their title in WWE, the next time they show up on Raw, they're not upset. They're not, flipping tables or whatnot. They're smug. That's the default attitude. They're just smug. They come out and they say stuff like, it doesn't matter if I lost because I will regain it one day, and so on and so forth. It's like, it should matter that you lost. You should be upset. You should be upset that you lost. Because it's the world title or whatnot. You should be mad. And I will always remember that when Drew McIntyre was champion and he lost the title to Bobby Lashley. And if I remember correctly, he lost the title to Bobby Lashley because Mike the Miz got involved, something to that effect. There was some outside interference that cost him the title. And I was thinking Drew should show up on Raw, flipping tables, destroying catering, shouting at everyone, just being pissed off, legitimately pissed off. But instead, no, he comes to the ring and he's, hey, no big deal. It's like, and I'm like, he's not angry at anyone. Why doesn't anyone get angry? Why doesn't anyone get angry because you're losing your top title? So that's what I was afraid they were going to do here. That's what I was legitimately afraid that they were going to do here. Mercedes come out and say, it doesn't matter, I've still got 9 titles, or whatever the fuck. But she didn't. She came out and she was legitimately upset. So that, for the AEW viewer, is super positive because it indicates that the AEW titles are the one that matter the most. And that's what it should be in the promotion. That is what it should be. You can argue with me that, that sucks for CMLL. She has the women's world title and, she should hold it in higher regard then. Yeah, but no, not in AEW canon. Your world women, well, not your world, but like your titles, regardless, should always be more important than anywhere else. So that was a very slick, very smart thing to do. And the more things are going, the more I see how things are going, I should say, the more I think that Mercedes Moné, the fucking sicko that she is going to be jumping on a plane and flying all across the world to go drop the titles that she won from Italy and fucking Portugal and Belgium and, Denmark and wherever the fuck else. And she's going to get a title. She's going to get a title defense in Arena Mexico sooner than later too. And whoever she's going to be paired up against is going to be winning that title. Like at first, when all of this was going on, I was like, oh, she's just going to relinquish some belts. But no, I keep telling you guys, she's one of us. She's a sicko. She loves pro wrestling. She fucking loves pro wrestling. And I legitimately believe she's going to do it now. I think she's going to go around and she's going to start dropping titles right and left, and it's going to be glorious. The TBS title was the nucleus of Moné. The fact she lost it means she basically lost everything. Even on her Instagram, that photo with her in the white veil caption said, "RIP TBS." There you go. Now I think from my instincts seem to tell me that they're angling for her versus Chris Statlander, and I think she's winning the world championship. I think she'll be taking the world championship away from Chris Statlander. Is it Christine? Do we know? What's her full name? What's Chris Statlander's full name? I'm assuming that's probably her real name because, Kristen Statlander. I mean, Statlander had to be her real name, right? Like, there's no way there's no way that's your kayfabe name, where you go around in the indies, not calling yourself like, Chris Black or something, it's like, or Chris Lightning. Statlander is absolutely your shoot name. Monet will probably drop the Winnipeg belt on Dynamite when it comes into town. Hiya, Johnny, by the way. Why? Why would she do that? Why would the promotion want that? I'm the promoter. I don't want that to happen. Like, she will go, when she goes to Winnipeg, the promoter has to bring her in for a match so that he can sell some tickets for his show. There's no way. And then you have to drop to a local talent, most likely. You have to drop it back to a local talent, otherwise none of this made sense. If anything, she should drop it back to the person she got it from, Jody Threat. And Jody Threat is not showing up on AEW TV these days. Let me tell you something. She is not going to be on All Elite Wrestling TV. Neither is this guy, Mustafa Ali. He re-signed with TNA. Let's read quickly, We'll read the quote here that he shared. Just a few days ago, I officially re-signed with TNA Wrestling. So yeah, TNA, Mustafa Ali, AMC. I'm very, very happy with that. TNA management, Carlos Silva, Tommy Dreamer, everybody top to bottom has just been very supportive. I don't want to say they see the vision. I bring them this idea. I've earned it. Excuse me. I've earned it, I feel like, but there's so much trust from them. Good for him. And I hope this puts to bed any thoughts that Mustafa Ali missing out is that AEW missed out on Mustafa Ali, that somehow, we dropped the ball or that Tony fumbled. This is a guy who wants to be there. He just wants to be there. And it's not as if Ali didn't have any ins for AEW. Probably one of his biggest supporters in Bryan Danielson probably would have liked him to show up. But he fits in perfectly. He fits in perfectly in TNA. And probably a lot more than I would have thought. Look, I want to point this out. Good for him. And if he's making decent money in the meantime, even better for him. And he's probably real happy that he's still hanging around the WWE orbit, right? That's likely something that is very satisfying for him, that maybe at some point, the clouds will part and the rays of sunshine beaming down from Triple H's beatific smile will shower him in rays of warmth and carry him back up to the main roster of WWE. Who knows? But nonetheless, I'm surprised at how much he fits in there. Because myself, like a lot of people, were excited that he decided to not renew his contract with WWE all the way back then. What is it? Has it been 4 years, 5 years? How long has it been? And we were all looking forward to seeing what an unchained, unfettered Mustafa Ali would be able to do out there without being bogged down by the WWE house style. We were all very excited about that. Remember, he would constantly post videos of him sparring, training, right? And he'd be doing these great sequences with his sparring partner. And you were like, holy shit, this will be so cool once he hits the independents, right? And he does a few New Japan shots, New Japan of America, the strong brand, and he moves around a bit, and everything he does is it was good, but unremarkable, right? He'd just be doing things. He'd be doing some, not to say that what he was doing wasn't compelling or interesting, but was just very, all right. I kind of was expecting more. It's kind of like thinking that every time this guy was going to step into the ring, he was going to tear the house down and prove all his naysayers in WWE that he has the stuff and he's a great worker. And instead, what does he do? He focuses on sports entertainment. He does this presidential candidate character, and he's got his Secret Service and whatnot, and it turns out he's tailor-made for TNA. Just gives enough effort. He's a good enough worker to be one of the best workers on TNA. And then he has all the sports entertainment stuff down perfectly. And it's like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, I don't want phony presidential candidate Ali and all of this political gimmickry that he does with his Secret Service and all this bullshit. I don't want that on AEW. I have no interest in that, in fact. So, a lot of people will say Tony fumbled. I will say Tony dodged a bullet, or, someone had a really good read on Mustafa Ali. Someone had a really, really good read. And good for him. So, good for him if he resigned and he's comfortable doing what he does, and he's probably real excited at the idea that AMC, he's going to be back on cable TV, it's, not access, in an actual network. He's probably station, cable network, whatever they call it now. It's not a network. It's a cable station. It's a broadcast cable. It's not broadcast. Fuck. Anyway, you all know what I meant. Yeah, he's probably really excited that the bigger exposure and whatnot. He probably sees some big things. And probably Carlos Silva, he's probably like, ooh, he's a former WWE guy, because Carlos Silva really, really likes NXT people. So good for him. Good for our boy Mustafa Ali. Hoo-yah, AW1. Jeez, I can't talk anymore. You are not late to the party because there was never a start time. No, there was a start time, but no one is ever really, truly late to the party. Welcome to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show stream. AW1 also happens to be a member of the channel on top of that. So, hey. Haha. Well, we already talked about this. I don't know if we need to break this down a little more. New Japan laid out its schedule right into late summer for the promotion, and the big announcement was that the G1 was going to debut this year in the United States in Chicago / Hoffman Estates in the Now Arena I do have some things I could talk about. I do have a couple of talking points here. So we'll break it down just a little more. And it'll be starting on July 11 with a big old kickoff here in the United States. That's terrific. Don't get me wrong. I think that running the Now Arena is a little bold. I think it takes some gumption to do that. The last two times that that a G1 took place in the United States, the attendance wasn't that great, right? Let me get some numbers here. Our pal here, let me see here. Our pal Chris Samza here got some numbers for us. For the last time they debuted the G1 in the United States was the G1 Climax 29 on July 6, 2019. And they had Tanahashi versus Okada main eventing that show, 4,846 people. Was the attendance. Now, the building that they ran in Dallas was significantly bigger than the Now Arena, right? And it was significantly bigger than the Now Arena. So probably, they'll be able to make it feel like an exciting show nonetheless. But I don't know, man. Like hammering home all the typical, the usual points about New Japan is that all of the truly big stars are no longer around, right? Tanahashi, Okada, Naito, they're all gone now, or they're working for another company. They're working for a company in which we can see them more. We can see them regularly on TV, right? So right then and there, drawing the G1 this year is going to be a challenge, because who are you going to call upon to try and get 4,000, 5,000 people, let's say, if you want to try and equate to what they did in Dallas in 2019. You're going to have to really work hard at this, right? So again, we have multiple months to build excitement to that as well. We've got 6 to 7 months before we actually reach destination here. So we've got time, but will New Japan do it? That's the whole question. Will they be able to create enough anticipation and excitement in the potential for a G1 so that people will go to the event? Chicago is a wrestling town. There's always this argument. Chicago is a wrestling town. It is a great spot, for travel as well. It's a bit of a, it's a hub for travel as well. Very easy to get to Chicago by multiple methods. So maybe this is this an event that can draw people from outside the city? I think so. Again, depending on how well they build it or not. I am very, very unsure of whether or not they'll be able to do it. Again, it's still very early, but it's a big gamble that they're taking right here. Look, the Now Arena is what it is. It's not the biggest venue, but I've heard rumors that they being New Japan, were looking at booking the United Center for this. That would have been an absolute disaster. There was no way they were filling out enough people to make the United Center feel special. But they were looking into booking the United Center, which is kind of crazy. So, if they get 5,000 in there, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be it's 5,000 in the Now Arena is not going to be a tremendous atmosphere. It's not going to be a tremendous ambiance. The difference between, let's say, the Dallas crowd and the Chicago crowd is, the Chicago crowd is 100% more into the Chicago crowd is so much more a wrestling crowd. So you can always bet on that. But then at the same time, like, how much are they into New Japan these days, right? Just like, despite the fact that you can say, oh, Chicago's a wrestling crowd. Well, when's the last time AEW filled out the United Center? I can tell you when. I can tell you when I was there. You see, are you picking up what I'm putting down here? This idea that the Chicago fans, Chicago wrestling fans are great and whatnot, and they are. They're still, you still have to win a significant number of people over. And if AEW, second biggest promotion in the United States, a promotion that once called Chicago home, they were dominating the Chicago market, now can't even work Chicago proper. They have to go to Hoffman Estates to work smaller venues. And this is a North American promotion with TV and whatnot. What chance do we believe that New Japan has to really make a statement and fill out the Now Arena? I'm not super confident in that. I don't know. I'm really not into it. Again, there are months to come. Like I said in my Wrestle Kingdom review, I am keeping New Japan creative at arm's length. I don't trust them. Despite the fact that I've heard encouraging things, the proof is going to be in the execution. You can talk about it as much as you like, but at some point, you're just going to have to deliver, and hopefully what you deliver are some positive results. So in the meantime, right now, I can't get behind, a G1 starting in Chicago and running the Now Arena and saying, "Oh wow, this is going to fill up." I could be wrong. But these are not the G1s we've been having for the past few years. They aren't your grandpappy's G1s. These aren't the legendary G1 climaxes of the 2010s where everyone would completely lose their shit. And every match was a match of the year on the card, or close to. It's like we haven't had one of those in a long, long time. Does the G1 still have that attraction on that level? I don't know. I'm not sure. You could try to convince me. I don't think so. But I'm open to listening to arguments about it. But I don't think it has the cachet, the prestige that it once did. This looks for a job for Captain New Japan. Indeed, where is he in our hour of need? I found it interesting that that only one U.S. show from New Japan, New Beginning USA, on February 27 in Trenton, New Jersey, was announced. No other strong shows, not Resurgence and what are all the other names? Resurgence and Vehicle Manslaughter and Vengeance and Rekindlement. I don't remember the names. Which continues to lead me to believe that the Strong brand is a dead brand. Because they didn't brand it as when they announced this last year, they didn't brand it as a New Japan Strong show. And I had pointed that out. And they still haven't branded it as a New Japan Strong show either. It's a dead brand. Anyway, New Beginning in Osaka, February 11. Gearing up to be a really interesting show. And you have the anniversary show on March the 6th at Oda City Gym. Then the New Japan Cup semifinals and finals are going to be in Nagata. Sakura Genesis at Sumo Hall in April. And then, interesting, the Death Vegas Invitacional, which is El Desperado's show, his produce show, that is apparently being produced under the watchful eye of New Japan and GCW, or at least it's going to be part of the collective, which means it's going to be GCW'd up. And quite frankly, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't think it's a particularly an exciting prospect. I've been over GCW for a while. I don't know. Is El Desperado going to fly in? I know he retired, right? But is he going to fly in? I'm drawing blanks. Never mind. We'll skip this point. But are we going to see Jimmy Lloyd on this card? This is what I was ultimately getting at, right? Like, it's not a GCW show, but it's part of the collective, which means that there are going to be like GCW talent who are going to find their way onto this card. Whereas before I was like, oh, this could be interesting. And then and immediately I'm like, ooh, do you think John Moxley would like to work this with Despake? Because they get along real well. These guys are pals. So I'm like, wouldn't that be fun? And now that GCW is involved, I'm like, suddenly not quite as stimulating. Are they going to get Nick Gage on this? Nick Gage apparently is doing better. They're going to do the MDK show as well during WrestleMania week, I should say. Anyway, we'll see how all of this continues to come together. I was excited when they announced it, and then when I realized it was part of the collective, I was like, not as fun. New show called Wrestling Red Zone in Hiroshima. Duntaku is going to be on May 3rd and 4th in Fukuoka, which is a classic. Best of Super Junior finals on June 7 at Oda City Gym. And then the Dominion show on June 14. Where else than in Osaka Joe Hall? And then the night one of the G1 in Chicago / Hoffman Estates, followed by the G1 Climax Finals in Sumo Hall on August 15 and 16. So there you go. That's what's on the slate for them, and how it relates to us, particularly in North America. We'll, as usual, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe all my reservations will be proven to be wrong. But you know, and I know, Warren Hayes is more often right than wrong, right? Or at least he has the perception of being more right than wrong. That's just how it goes. It's a curse. It's a curse. So that's where we're at, folks. I think we covered most of the important topics, most of the really juicy stuff. I heard that that Stardom is running vignettes of a surprise appearance or a new member of the roster, right? And people have been poring over it, and the silhouette seems to correspond to one Maki Ito. I'm not super into that. Really not. I think Maki Ito has never been a great pro wrestler. I think there was a time she was maximizing her act to great effect and was very successful in hiding her issues and got over tremendously because it was a compellingly funny act, you know, it was interesting. But now that the act, I think, is kind of wearing thin, that everyone has seen it, now you're sort of looking for the substance, and there's not much to be found. So I'm not particularly... I know she left TJPW recently. I'm not super into the idea of her joining Stardom. I don't know what she brings to the table. I don't know. I don't know. Is she going to join Hate? Is that going to be the gimmick? Is she just going to be someone else in the big evil stable, big evil unit? That's what I used. That's what they used to call me in college. That's a lie. Thank you, nonetheless, for believing the lie, even for a second. And but mostly, thank you everyone for joining me this evening. I appreciate it tremendously. You all are spectacular folks. I will be back on Monday for another stream. And in the meantime, you're in good company. You've got the Dynamite review that's out, so you can go check that out and enjoy that. And it'll keep you warm at night until I return on Monday. And then we'll be back with the Mr. Warren Hayes show on Wednesday and the Dynamite review next week. And the whole cycle continues. We're back into it, baby. Back into it. The holidays are over. Warren can't sit around and say, oh, gotta spend time with my family. No. There's no more excuses now. There's no more excuses. He's got to deliver. And he will. He shall. Join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. All right. We've got the whatchamacallit, the video game critic fantasy league. We're starting like tomorrow or something. So you join the Discord and you go to the video games channel and you'll have all the details there. Okay. There you go. Exactly, D. Owens. Exactly. No more Disney World for the Nunchuck Master. Go back to the grindstone. Exactly. That is a perfect comparison. So anyway, I hope you all have a great end to your week and an even better weekend, folks. You deserve it. Thank you so much for being here. We're done. I've decided for the new year, we're done with the Randy Orton bit. We're not doing it anymore. It was funny for a while. Now it's like just tedious. Do we replace it with something else? I don't want to force it. I don't want to force it and bring in like, I've got to come up with a quippy line to end the shows. Nah, No, if there's ever something, kind of like the Randy Orton thing, if there's ever something that happens which is just organic and feels good, we'll do it. But I'm not gonna force something here. We're not gonna force in a Jey Uso quote or whatever, or a Matt Hardy quote, just because we think it's funny. We're gonna do it organically. Keep our ear to the ground. Keep us alive. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.